Namaste, my name is Sanat Kumar. Welcome back to the Manana podcast. Manana is a Sanskrit word that means reflection or contemplation. In this podcast, I'll be sharing my deep, insightful reflections for you to contemplate and hence live a life of fulfillment. I hope you find great value in today's episode. Okay, before I tell you what is that one thing, I like to say this. This doesn't apply to schools and colleges. Or to be more accurate, even though the principle apply to mass education scenarios like schools and colleges, it doesn't matter there. Because one, the subject and topics discussed and taught there are not too deep, all are merely a scratch on the surface. And two, because even the relationship between the student and the teacher is merely held by the timeline of their education in that particular institution, right? So, however, this axiom I'm about to share with you, which I've come to realize through years of observation both in my students and my classmates, is one that can be seen in the long term. That is, lifelong learning subjects and endless journeys. It can be seen at its best in pursuits of art, dance, music, sports, or even personal mastery. So, the aspect, or in other words, the virtue I'm talking about here is devotion. Yes, I've observed and have come to realize and believe that devotion is that one thing that sets apart excellent students from the average and the others. Of course, so to be more precise, it's the level of devotion towards the craft and towards the master that sets apart the excellent students. So, since a long time, I started observing how each student perceives music. Some see music as a skill, one as a post retirement chill habit, and one sees it as another feature she or he can add to her marriage proposal. But the pattern I saw was that the best student of all was the one who had the most devotion towards the music and the master. The more devoted they were, the more music they were able to grasp. And similarly, the opposite is also true. The worst student is one who does not have devotion towards music or towards the master. So I realized that the lack of devotion is the reason why not many people are able to learn music. Of course, not everybody needs to have devotion towards music, but if not, you probably cannot learn music. Okay, here I have to highlight the dual aspects of that statement: devotion towards the craft and devotion towards the master. Both of the aspects are crucial and are interdependent, and yet sometimes people may believe that they can progress without one of them. So, the first one, devotion towards the craft. This is the easy one, right? Almost everyone knows and believes that passion and dedication are required to progress in any craft. And yet, there are many cases of students dropping out of what once was their passion. It's simply because it was, after all, not their passion. It was merely an interest, a curiosity, or not even that. It might have been a compulsion by parents, friends, or any societal arrangement you can think of. However, resilience is not possible without passion. By the way, passion is not just a very high level of interest, it is almost love. At least here, at least here, that's what I'm trying to convey. And when one has passion, they don't stop at passion. They're automatically drawn to dedicate towards that pursuit or craft. So the next aspect is devotion towards the master. This one, oh my god, this one's not that easily understood. Instead, it's the one aspect that's easily overlooked. This is the reason why students try to manipulate the learning process in ways that need not be, right? Of course, assuming the master we are talking about here is actually a master. I think why they try to manipulate the learning process, I think it might be because they think they know better than their teacher or not. In most cases, it is not. It might simply be because the students aren't aware of their level of ignorance. They just don't know how much they don't know, or they just don't know how much is to be learned. So it may be because he or she has not observed and absorbed the magic his or her master can produce. For most of the students, I think that is the case because they haven't seen their masters on stage or wherever they are performing. What is the magic the master creates? They've not observed that. I think if they have done that, They'll know the vastness of the art. If they try to analyze and understand that magic, they'll realize how many years of dedication to the craft the master has put into to bring such magic into the world. Then they'll see the reason to see him devotionally, and hence there'll be devotion. And of course, apart from all this, if the student comes from a cultured background, then automatically he'll have devotion towards the master, because that is how we are trained, right? In any family that has Sanatana Dharma as its core value, the culture will be this: to respect teachers, to respect elders, and especially teachers, especially the masters who are teaching you great values or great skills, great art forms. There'll naturally be devotion towards the master. And as I mentioned, these two are interdependent. If a student is devoted to the craft, he'll definitely come to be devoted to the master. Or if he hates the master, he'll soon start to hate the subject or craft. We've seen this even in schools and colleges. Of course, there is the other side of the coin too. I'm not saying you must believe and devote yourself to someone blindly. I'm not saying you have to become the blind believer. If you go to the blog version of this podcast, you'll see a graph. In that graph, the x axis is ultimate devotion towards the master, and the y axis is ultimate devotion towards the craft. And the negative of those, we can say minus x as no devotion towards the master, and the minus y as no devotion towards the craft. So, on the first quadrant, we have the ideal. We have both ultimate devotion towards the craft and the master. And the second, we have ultimate devotion towards the craft, but no devotion towards the master. So at that corner, we have the arrogant, who lacks humility. And at the third quadrant, we have no devotion towards the craft, no devotion towards the master. That is the apathetic. He or she lacks interest, basically. On the fourth quadrant, we have the blind believer. He has ultimate devotion towards the master, but no devotion towards the craft. He or she lacks the drive to work. I think the fourth quadrant gets solved automatically, because just by being with the master, admiring the level of magic he or she produces, I think it eventually brings interest in the craft also. So I'm not saying one should become the blind believer also. It has been a known fact for ages, this disorder of seeing someone with miraculous abilities and seeing them too highly that they forget to look into that person, look into his journey, look into his virtues, all the efforts and the pain he had to go through to become that person he is now. They forget everything. So I'm not telling you to become a blind believer, because when someone is not seen like ourselves, we tend to disregard their qualities. If we see Rama as a god before we see him as a human and his virtues and actions as human, we will not try to live like Rama. We leave his case to be an outlier. We label it as divine, superpower, God, etc. But we don't truly devote ourselves to that power, do we? We just say, leave him, right? When we say Rama did that, you leave Rama, right? Leave him. He's Rama. They'll say that. We can devote ourselves to something that we understand is great. And through that understanding, we believe, we love, and then there's devotion. Simple question: would you devote yourselves to Rama if you did not know Ramayana? When something is done through devotion, it is the action done at its best. So when I say devote, that means be all in. It means give your full. It's not just students, right? Whatever it is in life, when we get very much involved, that's when we perform well. That's when we get good results. So devotion is nothing but that. I'm sorry the topic got deviated a little, but I must say devotion is such a topic. So I had to mention all that I have. It might be your art teacher, dance teacher, or music, or you may even have a mentor for life, which most great masters are. And it is very, very hard to get in these times. I'm just saying have devotion to him or her. And when I say devotion, as I've already mentioned, it's about walking along with him or her towards the light. That is awareness. If you understand it correctly, Devotion is not a blindfold, it's a means to awareness. So devote yourself to whatever that you are pursuing and towards the master who's guiding you and taking you along the journey you wish to travel. I hope you received excellent value in today's episode. To know more, head over to sanatkumarnabi.com, and if you haven't already, check out my book The Flower of Fulfillment. Thank you for listening, and I wish you have a great day.